So for everyone who is watching who might not know who I am, my name is James Bowerman. I am a realtor with the Real Creative Group of Douglas Realty, located in Pasadena, Maryland. And with me today, Joanna, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Joanna Kouvaras. I'm a tax consultant CPA here in Maryland also.
And so today we're going to be discussing a pretty hot topic with everything going on in the world. We're talking about different business relief programs available to business owners, independent contractors, going to hopefully provide a lot of information on what is available and hopefully debunk some of the concerns going on with issues with conflicting programs, and you can't use all and everything that you were telling me about. So to get started, let me just give a kind of a highlight overview of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about the Maryland grants, the Maryland loan program, the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan, EIDL, the Payroll Protection Program loan, the PPPL, and then some additional tax credits available. So Joanna, without further ado, would you like to start us off?
Yes, of course, this is a lot of information, and what I suggest is talk to your tax advisor, tax consultant to further understand everything that's available, given that this is a very, it can be very difficult to understand the different programs and how they all apply to your individual situation. So the first thing that we'll talk about, us being here in Maryland, we're going to talk about the grant and the loan programs that are available. Governor Hogan on March 23rd came out with the grant and loan programs that are available to businesses. These grants and loans are only available for businesses with employees, unfortunately. We haven't seen that the state of Maryland is doing anything yet for the sole proprietors. Maybe in the coming days, they'll have something else available for the sole proprietors, but until then, if you're a sole proprietor and you have employees, you can use this. If you're just a sole proprietor doing your own thing, then these are not available for you. So to get started, the Maryland grant is worth $10,000, which is pretty fabulous. And how you apply for that is by going to the Commerce Maryland website that James will be putting up. I think it's on his Facebook page.
Yep, I'm gonna put a link, but on my actual website too, I'm gonna have all these resources. So if you go to therealcreativegroup.com/COVID-19, you'll find all the information that we're talking about and some of these links and resources there, which we can continue to update as we move forward.
So the application for the grant is pretty straightforward. What you're going to need for that is 2 years of prior year's financials, income statement, and balance sheet. You're also going to need your interim financials. At this point, it would be January through March. You also have to provide your unemployment insurance number, and that's something that you can get from your payroll reports. And what they're doing there is trying to identify the company back with what it has been paying in. It doesn't go against your unemployment rate. It just validates that you are an employer in the state of Maryland. So that's why they ask for that number. You also have to provide evidence of your distress during this time. Loss of income, you also have to provide comparing what you have from 2019 in the month of March compared to what you have in the month of March this year, and any other information that you have. You had to close your shop, you had to diminish your business. If you're a restaurant, you went from a full service restaurant to only takeout, so you had to diminish your employees. What they're doing with this grant and with all these programs is trying to keep people in business. So if you have proof of any of this loss, and if you're paying rent and the lessor will not allow you to reduce your rent payments, and that's something else that this can be used for. They want businesses to stay alive. They want people to be able to work there and for these businesses to survive during this hopefully short downturn. So you need to provide your evidence that what you're going to be using the money for. You're going to be continuing with your payroll. You may have had to cut your force from 6 employees to 4 employees or whatever it is, and now you want to bring back those people. So that is all used as evidence that you are that you need this grant money. The one thing that the grant application is not asking for is proof on the backside of what you use the money for. And along with these other programs, it has not specifically said that you can't use that money for the same purpose. So if you're getting a federal grant, for instance, that it can't be used for the same purpose as you have the Maryland grant. So there's a lot of play in between these, but as of now, Maryland doesn't have any stipulations that you have to use the money for separate purposes. So that takes care of the $10,000 grant. Once you apply, you can go back on the website to see how the grant application is going. If you're denied, you'll have a very quick denial. Most of my clients right now are in pending status. One of my clients got denied, another one got partially approved for $7,000 of a grant for that business, and we just don't know why that is. So the grant could take as much as 4 weeks, but you can imagine how they're very much overwhelmed with this process. They're trying to do as quickly as they can.
Yeah, I have a question about with the whole process. We have the link to the Maryland Commerce website, and that I'm sure people can find. Again, it can be found on my website at therealcreativegroup.com/COVID-19. A lot of stuff to kind of pull together. First, have you been through this experience? Is it pretty helpful as far as saying, here's what you need to do, how you need to get it? Or is it something that they're going to probably struggle with, have to go and tap into a couple of resources and come back?
So the most beneficial process is to first gather the information. So just knowing that you need those 2 years of financial statements. If you keep it on QuickBooks, if you keep it on any other financial resource, if you're just keeping on Excel spreadsheet, just to have that information so you can upload it. They probably do time out. So prior to applying for the Maryland grant, get your 2 years comparative financials, 2018, 2019, profit and loss balance sheet. Next thing is get your interim financials, January through March, balance sheet, profit and loss statement. Determine what the benefit is for receiving these funds, how you're going to be using the funds, gather information on your business rent. It's not a home business. It would be if you're actually paying rent to a lessor for your brick and mortar. So it would be your rent expense. If you actually own the building, then it'd be your mortgage that you have on it. Any utilities, telephone, internet expenses for that business, those all qualify also. So that's the information you're pulling together. And then having the comparative either January through March of last year to January, March of this year, or because everything really hit home in March, comparing March of 19 to March of 2020 to get a good comparison. So we always don't want to see a decrease in income, but that would probably be the best determinant of how your business is becoming stressed, is showing March to March.
One last thing I just want to reiterate. You said it can be used for rent, utilities, and payroll. So specifically for business purposes, can it be used for anything outside of those categories, or is it just strictly for those?
Those are the ones that they are allowing. And again, this grant was put into place to keep people in business. So keeping employees on your rolls as opposed to laying them off so they're going to the state unemployment rolls. So the overhead expenses in order to keep the business and the employees working is what this purpose is.
Awesome. Okay, great. Let's move on to the next one. We're going to talk about the Small Business Association, the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan.
Actually, we're going to continue back with the state of Maryland.
Okay. Sorry,
Because-
jumping ahead.
Yeah.
Loan program, sorry.
Yes, we forgot the loan program, which is amazing. It's a $50,000 no interest loan for 12 months. And then after those 12 months, it converts to a 36-month, 2% fixed interest rate repayment. So after you get the monthly payments of that $50,000, but for a 2% interest rate, it's a pretty good deal. And again, that one caveat for this loan is that your credit score, the individual person applying for this loan for the business, their credit score has to be over 575. Okay. And once you apply for this, it's very similar to the documents that you need for the grant, all the financials. So if you're going to be applying for both, keep everything handy so you can upload the documents. And again, it's more of a dissertation that shows why you need this and how you've struggled. It could be you identify your loss of revenue. If as a real estate agent and you see that people are skittish about settling on their homes, so they delay that, well, you were expecting $13,000, $15,000 that you don't have. So that's what they're looking for, any lost income from contracts. With retail businesses, they've had to close because of their retail store, personal services, hair cuttery places, and massage spa places. They've all had to close. This is a good reason to have the loan because they need to keep their operations running, not necessarily to keep their employees, but they can pay their employees for this time being off. So it's a loan that you don't really have to give a reason why you need it. Let me say that again. You always need to determine why you need it. Give them a reason for you wanting to stay in business. But if it's to keep your employees on the rolls, just keeping the doors in essence open so that you still get to pay your rent. Maybe there's some, if you're paying vendors on account every month and you have to use the income from the 1 month to pay for the prior month vendor invoices, that's another great reason to have the loan. Another reason for the loan could be that you have a higher interest loan from another bank and you want to refinance. This is a really easy way to pay off the loan with a higher interest rate. And then you have your 12 months with no interest. And, if you can convert it to that 2% after your first year. And again, it's for 24 months after that first year that you have to repay it with that 2% in interest rate.
All right. So we had a question here, which I'll basically break into because we're talking about two different things. We have a grant and we have a loan, both from the state of Maryland. If I'm a business, and I have the employees, mm-hmm. Can I apply for both, or is there one or the other, or a reason why I would only want one or the other?
You are able to apply for both. Okay. It's a personal decision if you need that extra $50,000. If it's something that you may not necessarily need, then there's no reason to apply for it. If you want to have maybe a rainy day fund, then you can go ahead and apply for the $50,000 and have it in your bank account. And towards the end of that 12 months, if it's still there, repay it. Or if it's something that you're going to need to maybe rework your business. There's a lot of people right now, they have to go virtual. Yeah. So if you need to spend the funds on buying extra computer equipment and video equipment in order to reach your customers and clients via virtual, then that's another good usage for that $50,000.
Yeah, and you said so. If I get this 50,000, is it up to 50 or is it?
It's up to 50.
Okay, so I can potentially get up to 50,000, and for the first 12 months, there's no interest or repayment or anything.
Nope, nothing.
And then after that, it goes to a 2% fixed interest.
Right.
Okay.
Fixed monthly payments.
So that's pretty, it's a pretty good loan that, you know, I think anybody could benefit from, even if they don't have to use it, particularly from, you know, the disaster.
Correct. And the disaster just exacerbates their business needs. Like I said, if they're used to paying on a loan every month that maybe has 5-6% or higher interest,
Mm-hmm.
they can pay down some business credit cards too if they have a balance on that. And you know, this is just a fixed 2% as opposed to how the credit card companies, you know, 10-12% compounded daily, it seems. So this may be a really good way to streamline your expenses for your business.
Cool. Any particular downsides to those two programs before we go forward?
Not necessarily. I really can't see any. I don't necessarily know about anyone who's really gone through this yet because this program is fairly new. So we won't know if there is a downside until the other side of the equation happens.
Yeah. So we don't even know what, I don't know if you touched on this yet, but expectations, like as far as the rollout on this, if people apply for this, when can they apply, and when do you think they can expect to see any kind of funds distributed?
So the applications have been open since March 23rd, and it's on the Maryland Commerce website. It's been about 2 weeks now, and no one that I know who has applied has heard anything from Maryland yet. Everything is still in process. They're expecting between the next 2 to 4 weeks that they're going to start contacting business owners that have applied. But you can imagine, again, they're very inundated with all these applications. So someone has to come out first. Just I haven't heard of anyone coming out with the money. And this money is, it seems like it's going to be an actual check to the businesses, but again, there's going to be follow-up from the state of Maryland people to know the mechanics of how to get this money to the people who have applied.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you. Do you want to move on to the next one?
Yes. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan / Grant. So it's called the EIDL. And this application is on the SBA website. You can apply for an immediate working capital grant, which is pretty amazing because they're definitely trying to get money into the hands of their businesses. They say within 3 days from the application. I've had clients who applied a week and a half ago and still haven't seen a deposit. But this grant of $10,000 is also part of a larger loan that you can take out of up to $1 million, dependent on what you need and your gross revenues. You can have that extra $990,000 of a loan. It's a 3.75 interest rate for the loan. But with the grant is, again, it's immediate working capital of $10,000 that gets dumped into your bank account because you provide that on the website. The application is honestly quick and easy. The only numbers that you have to provide to them are your gross receipts from February 1st of 2018 to January 31st, 2019, and also your cost of goods. And there's a box to check that you want to be considered for the $10,000 grant. Owner's information. It's so easy, which I think is fabulous, that you just go on there and it takes maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah, I did this one myself. It's since I don't have any employees, and for any real estate agents who are watching this too, this is a good one to get on as quick as you can, I guess, and apply. But yeah, I jumped on there. I still haven't seen any kind of emails or updates. Nothing has hit my bank account, but I went on and it's a couple pages. I believe it's COVID-19 relief.sba.gov. A pretty simple form, like you said. You fill it out, you put in your information, whether you have an EIN or social security number, and those numbers you talked about, and hit submit. Gives you that confirmation number. So make sure you hold on to that so you have something to reference. But yeah, it was pretty simple, and a great source for independent contractors like myself to be able to get some kind of help to carry through this.
Right. Just going back for a second to the Maryland grant loans, you need to have under 500 employees and your gross revenues have to be under 5 million. Again, that's just another clarifying point for Maryland. For the EIDL and the next one we'll talk about, those loans are, and the grants, you have to have under 500 employees also. And then I think not sure, I don't think there's any revenue requirement that you have to have under a certain amount of revenue for the next one that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
But like I said, the EIDL is really very easy to do. And hopefully it'll be a lot quicker. The $10,000, there's a box you check on that you want to be eligible for the $10,000 grant, and that's all you really have to do.
Yeah. Is there a limit? Like, is there a cap? How much are we talking about? Do you think this is going to go quickly, or do people still have time to take advantage of it?
That's the crystal ball question. They say these applications are going to be open through December 31st. But of course, if the money runs out, then it's all dependent on who's going to be applying for the loans, I believe. Okay. So if people really need those loans, then the money is going to go quicker than just by the $10,000 per applicant for the grant.
Okay.
So it's always better to apply earlier rather than later with that. Sure.
All right, and that one's the SBA. And again, I put all these links on my website. I posted it in the live chat here. But if you go to therealcreativegroup.com/COVID-19, I'll have all these programs and then the links to go actually apply for them.
And then we have the one that just came out on Friday. And one other point about the EIDL that we were discussing, again, it's an application purely online. The difference between that and this Paycheck Protection Program loan, the PPPL, that loan application goes through your bank. And the bank has to participate as an SBA lender. There's a bank that opened their applications on Friday, then others over the weekend, another one today, again, here in Maryland. So it's been very interesting to see what each bank is requiring. As you can imagine, this one is the bigger one. So there's a lot more documents that you need to upload for this one. But the benefit, one of the differences with this one is that, again, you don't have to be an employer. You can apply as a sole proprietor. They'll ask for, when they ask for payroll information, what they're referring to is line 31 of Schedule C, which is the net earnings from self-employment. Because what that requires is you calculating the average payroll for the year. So you have to pull your 2019 payroll reports. There's different banks that may want 2020 first quarter information or January and February. If you are a new employer without the 12 months in 2019, then you'll need to provide your January and February payroll reports in order to get your average monthly payroll. For those who have been in business during 2019 and prior to that, you take the 12 months of your payroll, gross payroll, and then you add to that your employer payroll expenses, your FICA and Medicare side of your federal taxes, and then you add in there your Maryland unemployment, your federal unemployment. You can add your healthcare costs, employer provided healthcare, and any employer provided retirement cost. So there's a lot of numbers. Yeah. So if people are with a payroll company, they have been really great about providing these reports. So once you accumulate all of that information, then you divide by 12, sorry, to get your average monthly payroll. And the amount of loan that you are eligible for is 2.5 times your payroll cost. So it sounds like a difficult calculation, but if you have everything at hand, you have your financial statement, then those numbers should be able to be very available to you.
Yeah.
So my preferred company, my payroll company, Paychex, they do a fantastic job of making sure that these reports are available for their business and business owners.
Gotcha. So this is also available for independent contractors, right? So a lot of the stuff that you're saying, like I don't have a payroll, I don't have employees, so I'm going to take advantage just for my own needs here and just ask you: is it easier than of a process as an independent contractor for me to go through and what I'm submitting? Is it more income based? I know that this is supposed to be, it must be used for payroll, rent, utilities, phone, internet, interest payments, mortgage. I don't know if that list continues, but talk a little bit more about that process, and then if and why I should take advantage of it as an independent contractor.
Okay. All right. So before I answer that, just to once you calculate the maximum amount of loan you're eligible for, which again is at 2.5% of your payroll cost. Let's just say, for sake of argument, that number is $200,000. You must use 75% of that money for payroll cost. 25% of that is used for other than payroll cost. The other factor is if you receive the EIDL $10,000 grant, that will become a part of this whole equation too. But again, that's something that you can talk over with your bank loan person when they contact you about when you have do documents for this PPPL. They'll let you know how the amount is lowered by your EIDL grant that you will be getting. And hopefully at that point, once they process the PPPL, you'll know whether or not you will have that EIDL loan. Okay.
Right. Just wanted to clarify one thing. You said 2.5% of the payroll cost. Is it 2.5% or 2.5 times?
2.5 times.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that because I have my notes 2.5 times the average monthly payroll. Okay. And then 75% of that has to be used for the payroll cost.
That's correct. 25% is the other than. So for instance, one of the interplays between the EIDL and the PPPL is you can apply for both and just having different expenses for different loans. For instance, some of my clients, they pay $4,000 to $7,000 per month in rent. So if you take those expenses, you can easily suck up that $10,000 with just the rent payment, so that when you are thinking about what expenses to use for your PPPL, you have your utilities, your phone, your internet that you can apply to that 25% over in the PPPL. So the wonderful thing when we're talking about the 75% 25% classifications, it's necessary because the PPPL can be forgiven up to the amount that you are using for payroll and your overhead in an 8-week period after you receive that money. So it's not an automatic forgiveness.
Can you define what forgiveness means? Just
Absolutely. I do want to go back because I always seem to be getting ahead of myself because this is very exciting information. The documents are more onerous for the PPPL application. You need to provide an entire year of your federal deposit employee reports, Federal 941. You also have to provide your federal unemployment yearly form 940. You have to provide your W-3 from if you have employees. You have to provide your state unemployment tax information because those are all the numbers that go into that payroll tax calculation. What we figure is that they haven't asked for it yet that I've seen, but they'll probably be asking when your loan officer contacts you, if you're a sole proprietor, they'll be asking for that Schedule C because they base it off of line 31.
okay.
So you need to have your documents available. And it may be that you start your application. Again, each bank is different, how they're asking for information, but the information that every bank is asking for is the same. So once you have all that information, then you can, after you get your loan, you have an 8-week period after that, and it can be any 8 weeks between when you receive your loan to June the 30th. So you pick an 8-week period, you calculate your payroll cost and your utilities and your rent, and you make an appointment with your banking lender, and you go in there with your documents and you say, here is how I used the loan that came from the SBA for the PPPL. And they will take the documents. They will have 60 days to get back with you. So that's where the forgiveness comes in.
Okay.
If you haven't used the money for what they want you to so that the loan is forgiven, the interest rate over here is only 1%.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so that is very, it's amazing. They originally had it at 0.5% last week, and we're like, oh my gosh, how can you give a loan out for 0.5%? Because that money, that 0.5% or full percent goes to the banks, and they're doing all the work.
Yeah.
So it's nice that they actually raise it up to 1%. But again, even if you need to pay off those credit cards and the loan isn't forgiven what you're eligible for, you're still able to keep it's 1%.
I can't imagine, like, a lot of people, like, as you're saying this, I'm like, man, it's like I have to track everything I'm spending on. They're in this state of panic almost, perhaps, and now I got to track everything I'm spending on and take that to the bank. It's like, for someone who's maybe not organized or even an organized person, I think it's going to be a challenge. So the fact that it's even that is somewhat forgiveness, that I can just, hey, these are the fires I got to put out. I don't, I'll deal with the repercussions later, but I got the money, I'm going to spend it on this. And if it's forgiven, great. If not, it's only 1%, it's pretty awesome.
Right. And again, it's not something that the banks will automatically call you and say, hey, James, why don't you come on in? We're going to see about this loan forgiveness. No, it's not the way it works. You have to be proactive and say, hey, I really like this loan forgiven. So then you make an appointment, which I'm sure is going to be a process too. Because it's going to be quite a few people that are going to go make those appointments back to the bank to get this loan forgiven.
Yeah.
So it's just your part for a 1% loan. And this is something that if you're not as organized, now is a great time to start, even if it's as simple as making notes in a binder. putting all your expenses into one folder, into one big envelope, just so you know these are the expenses that can be forgiven. And just knowing that the quicker and easier that the banks can make a check on your list, the easier it's going to be for that loan to be forgiven. And
It's good advice.
But yeah,
Make it easier for them.
Yeah,
That'll be easy on
exactly.
you.
The easier you make it on them, the quicker it's going to be, because with the amount of applications they're going to be processing, you don't want to have to go back to the bank to take documentation that you may need, because again, we're talking about time here.
Awesome.
All
right, what else do we have?
Well, the other item I just want to touch on is for those who don't necessarily want to apply for these loan programs. Maybe it's too onerous for you to gather all this information. You don't feel you want to take out a loan, even if it's only 1%. There's also something in the code that passed with this COVID. There's payroll tax credits available up to 50% of wages, up to a maximum of $10,000, but only $5,000 per month can be taken. So this is where you really need to contact your tax consultant, because there can be an interplay in between the PPPL and the payroll tax credits. So sometimes the payroll tax credits may be more advisable than taking out the PPPL. So that's just a number crunching exercise.
Gotcha.
That depending on the size of the company, and the other credit that's available are the COVID-19 family medical leave credits for the employees who have this, or if they have to stay home and take care of a loved one who has it, or they have to quarantine because they've been exposed to someone who has it. So there's other credits out there in case, well, there's a lot of options, let's just say that. Okay. So if one program doesn't work, there may be other programs available that you can take advantage of that, again, may not be as time consuming, but there's a lot on the table, and it's worth talking to someone who can guide you.
Gotcha. Well, let me throw this out there. I know you've been very proactively reaching out to a lot of your clients. You've reached out to me. You've reached out to a lot of people who aren't your clients to try to help out. I don't want to overwhelm you, but if somebody had questions and wanted to reach out, if you're available, how could they do so?
They can reach me either via email, or James can put my contact information up. I have no problem with that. Okay. I think it's very necessary that people have a resource, and I feel it my duty to kind of help those people that just need to be redirected, or hopefully they're working with a good tax consultant that can guide them with this. And there are the resources available online, but I don't think anything replaces actually talking to someone to cut through everything, because honestly, it's really easy to apply. You just have to understand what they're asking for and how to upload it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of these small businesses, I mean, this was a big shock. And for me, I'm weathering it fairly well right now, but the idea is the same, where I'm focusing on growing and running what I'm doing. Now I have to shift and do all these things. And I'm not, a tax person, someone who wants to pull all these reports and numbers and do the math. Like, it might be a necessity, but man, I would much rather, have an expert, somebody that knows what they're doing, what they're talking about, help me out, so I can at least try to, these people are, I'm really seeing a lot of great things as far as creativity come out of some of these business, which, maybe a bit of a silver lining, but, it's kind of neat to see some of these things and the shifts, the changes that it's bringing to adapt to what's going on. But yeah, well, I appreciate you helping out today and sharing all this great information. I'm going to have all this on the website, therealcreativegroup.com/COVID-19. And Joanne, I'll put your contact information up there as well. Anything else before we sign off?
Along with the lines of the, people reinventing themselves, reinventing how they do things, that there's also a manufacturing exemption on the Maryland website. And there's also federal tax credits for companies now who have transitioned to doing hand sanitizers, making masks. So there's a lot of opportunities out there for people just trying to help.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and for all this great information. If anybody has any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I'll be sure to connect you with Joanna. Again, this is going to be on the website. And I appreciate everyone who signed on to watch. Hope you're staying healthy, staying well, staying sane. If you can get out and enjoy the weather, at least we have that going for us. It's a beautiful day. So thanks again, everybody. Thank you, Joanna, and take care and be well.
Okay, thank you.